Hello, I'm Karena.
And I'm Jamie. Welcome to As Told by ADHD. This podcast is a brainchild of two best friends with ADHD who share a passion for learning and a knack for finding the most fascinating tidbits of knowledge.
Each week, we embark on a wild and hilarious journey of discovery as we dive headfirst into topics that pique our curiosity. From dark folklore to bizarre statistics, cultural ceremonies to famous dead people, we're here to entertain, educate, and tickle your funny bone. This week on As Told by ADHD, we're going to disrupt everything that we know about starting this podcast and do our first mini-series on the 6 wives of King Henry VIII.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
My thing is, I hate when women are portrayed in history in a way that doesn't reflect what they really are. I forgot her name, but the first emperor of China that was a woman, or empress, she was portrayed so negatively when she did so many great things. And I know that these women get a bad rap a lot of the time, especially the ones that were beheaded. So I wanted to dig a little deeper in it and show these women in the positive light that I think they should be shown in. Yes, people always have negative
Flaws?
things about them. They have flaws. But I do believe that from what I know about these women, they are usually portrayed as divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. And that's cool, but I don't love that. There's so much more than that.
Also, can we pause? Let's admire this woman over here. Let's admire this whole setup because it is tea. It is giving. It is mysterious. It is sexy. It is all of the things. And I just need you guys to stare at her for a second, please.
Stop.
Let's give a moment of staring.
Don't look at me. Don't look at me. Stop it.
Too late. Too late. Too late. Okay. Thank you for your moment.
Thank
Now, we are going to do this obviously not via dice roll because that means somebody has to go first and then we'd have no real research. So it's just kind of, we separated. We separated this so we can spend our time doing the research and stuff on this topic. So,
and we're going in chronological order.
Yes. So we are going to do evens and odds, obviously, because that's our thing. But I'm going to do odds. Jamie is going to do evens. So this week, you guys get to hang out with me as I tell you about Queen Catherine of Aragon.
Yes. I'm so excited.
So here we go, and we hope you enjoy our first real mini-series. Yes, we've done some topics that have overlapped with each other or maybe had a part 3 because there's just way too much information on that topic. But we have something that we're going to be telling that's new every single week that all coincides with each other. So yay for series. Catherine of Aragon. Her original name was Catalina, and she was born on December 16th, 1485 at the Archbishop's Palace of Alcalá de Henares near Madrid. Her parents were said to be super legendary. They were Catholic. They were monarchs, so they are the main Catholic monarchs of Spain. When you dive into history at all, you usually think of her parents. They were King Ferdinand II of Aragon and Queen Isabella I of Castile. So, I do want to do a little quick disclaimer because I will be putting images up on the screen, little depictions of certain things, maybe little tidbits of information if I forget to touch on it in this episode. But when I was doing the research, there were a lot of instances where Catherine's name was spelled with a K or a C. Right? And so I looked into which one is which because her final resting spot, it says Catherine with a K. She changed her name to Catherine with a K after she moved to England, so after she got married. A lot of texts by historians and even by academic databases use the letter C to spell her name, primarily in honor for her original Spanish identity and visually distinguish her from Henry VIII's other wives who were also named Catherine with a K or what have you, but she was baptized. This is a very big thing for Catholics too. When you're baptized with a name, and that's what you will be called by. It's a common thing. When you get baptized, you take on that name and that identity of that new self. And she was baptized as Catalina with a C. So a lot of historians just really wanted to honor her baptismal name, and they spelled her name with the C. So if you see Catherine with the C, don't come at me. She did both. Okay?
I had a feeling that that was what it was about, because I noticed that too, because the first wife and second wife definitely overlap. Most of the wives kind of overlap, honestly. But I assumed that one was the Spanish and one was the English.
Yeah. And so you'll see like text and stuff where it says Catherine, the Queen or something, and it's usually spelled with K. So that's why a lot of people I know will just be like, they genuinely believe that this is, the truth. They've always seen it in some texts and stuff like that, or just did some research and it was Catherine with a K, just wanted to be like, there's your disclaimer, right? So Catherine was obviously born really rich and royal, but she had an unbelievably religious upbringing. They were super heavy into Catholicism, but even so, she received one of the finest educations available to literally any European royal. She was tutored in Latin, history, philosophy, genealogy, and spoke Spanish, French, and English. And she was always on the go because she was raised during her parents' military campaign to expel the Moors from Spain. So she spent her young years traveling alongside their military camp. So she was educated and getting military experience or knowledge really, really young. That's going to come in handy later. But in an effort, or really a strategic alliance between Spain and England against France, Catherine was betrothed in infancy to Arthur, Prince of Wales. Betrothed in infancy refers to a binding agreement made by parents or guardians to have their children married to each other long before they're old enough to really consent, before they're born, even if they're still in the womb. Historically, this practice was used to solidify political alliances, consolidate family wealth, or settle debts. And in this case, it was for a treaty called the Treaty of Medina del Campo. So that's why England, Spain wanted to collude. So crazy that you can like betroth children before they're even born. I thought that was kind of wild. She arrived in England in 1501 when she was 15 and met Arthur, who was also 15, for a quick chit-chat, and then they walked their separate ways to get ready for their massive wedding at St. Paul's Cathedral, November 14th, 1501. So they met each other for just a brief period, and then they got married because that was the original deal. After they were married, the young couple was sent to Ludlow Castle in Wales to establish their court. But Arthur fell ill and died. And I read that it was, well, they said it was like a mysterious illness, but now they kind of think it's like tuberculosis or something.
I also think that in this time period, the sweating sickness was really rampant. So it also could have been that.
Yeah, they said that that was like one of the debates of it's usually between those two the most. A lot of them kept saying tuberculosis, so that's why I was just kind of like, honestly, I don't know. He got really sick and he died, and this was 5 months after they got married. So Catherine and Arthur were only married for 5 months, and then he passed away. So at 16 years old, Catherine was a widow. And what's even stranger than that is instead of letting her go back home to Spain, more likely because it was because of her dowry, which I found out was said to be like massive. I think it was like $200,000 then, which is like tens of millions today, like 30 or 40 million dollars today. So, you know, King of England is not going to let her go. Not when Spain is paying them
Right.
millions in dollars, you know, equivalent in money. And they only got 100,000 of that dowry by that 5-month mark from her parents. So they were like, we want the money. We have another son that you could be betrothed to. Henry VII, King Henry VII, and her father Ferdinand arranged a new betrothal between Catherine and Arthur's little brother, Henry VIII, who was only 10 years old at the time. She was 16. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
I
A
cannot
10-year-old.
imagine. Like, okay, did you watch Princess Diaries too?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that little kid that keeps following her around and is like, hey, will you marry me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I imagine.
That's what I imagine, but I feel like he was like, ew, it's gross. Like 10 years old to a 16-year-old, like I have a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they both think girls are still gross. So, I mean, they're not 10 yet, so I could be learning something in a few years. But as of right now, they think girls are gross. So,
But also, I feel like you need to think about like what he has probably been taught his entire life.
true.
He's probably been taught we're going to arrange you a marriage and it's going to come with a lot of money. And
True.
so, like, he probably had a different outlook than kids have today.
And even though, like, yes, that might be the case, he had some time to understand that he was going to be getting married because the church did not want him to get married. The church forbade a man from marrying his brother's widow back in the day. It was like law. So Catherine had to swear that her marriage to Arthur was never.
Consummated.
Yeah. It's just so weird to think like anyways,
Yeah.
sorry. But yeah, that way they could be like, okay, she is allowed technically to be betrothed, but we're not going to let them get married because this is law. So it took them several years to convince the church to let them marry. So the church finally allowed them to get married again several years later. Henry VIII was 18 years old and Catherine was 23 years old. And that's how Catherine and Henry VIII met and got married. This was June 11th, 1509. So I still think that's like, I feel like it's so hard to have an identity at that point. But, you know, that's, you know, it's just the way it was back in the day. So, but of course, when royals get married, what's the first thing that has to happen? They have to have babies. And she had a series of pregnancies that came after their marriage. In 1510, Catherine gave birth to a stillborn daughter. In 1511, she gave birth to a healthy son who was Prince Harry again, but he died 52 days later. And in 1513 and 1514, she had a series of miscarriages and infant losses. But what I did find out was that she was, I guess, resilient is like the only way to explain it, right? So when you think of Catherine of Aragon, I think about her pregnancies because that's what people like focus on. Like this is why she, you know, Henry divorced her, wanted to get the marriage annulled because she couldn't give birth to an heir. She couldn't give birth to babies. While she was going through these series of infant losses and miscarriages during 1513 and 1514, she was fighting for her, like, I guess, inherited country of England. She was appointed as regent and governor general of England, which gave her control of the entire kingdom during the war against France. She personally was writing up to Buckinghamshire, armored out completely to rally English troops and, coordinate all of this stuff. Like, yes, she was in Buckingham, but she was coordinating strategic strikes, logistics, like all of this stuff. She was like a military powerhouse when it came to planning and stuff, and I assume it's because of her upbringing. And they ended up winning the Battle of Fawdon. I'll put it on the screen because it's Scottish. They kicked the booty out of the Scots, essentially. And it's because of her expertise and her input on that battle. So, like, what the heck? You're usually so ill and not well after a miscarriage. And she's just...
See, this is what I mean by these women were so incredible. And like you said, in history, like we were told she didn't give the king a son. And that was her legacy. When this should have been her legacy all along, in my opinion.
There's so many things. I have like a list of fun facts because I didn't know how to like necessarily put them in the story to make it go with like, the rise and fall of like the marriage and how it happened and stuff like that. But I do want to touch on those because like, holy cow, right? So then in 1516, they finally had their first child to survive infancy, who was Mary I. Her last pregnancy, though, was in 1518, and they had another daughter who passed away shortly after childbirth. So this woman's body is just getting wrecked. Wrecked.
Also, no epidurals in that time period.
Nope. No antibiotics either when you have miscarriages. And stillborns and stuff like that. Like, she's literally incredible. Incredible. But by the mid-1520s, when Catherine was in her later half of mid-30s, Henry believed or was told or whatever that Catherine was past her childbearing years and they had no surviving male heir. And I read that Henry VIII believed that God was punishing him for marrying his brother's wife and decided to try to find a way biblically to get out of it. He especially loved Leviticus, and he would try to quote that to the church, which is courts essentially in like this age, to justify an annulment of a marriage. But in reality, he was falling in love with a young courtier.
If you want to say it with a British accent, it's courtier.
But in reality, he was falling in love with a young woman, a young courtier named Anne Boleyn. He's so sleazy. That's what I don't like. He was using the Bible to justify, but really it's something else. So it's just kind of like, let's just be so real.
I will say, from what I learned in like future stories of the other wives, he's very susceptible to input from other people. So I don't know if this was fully him. I think this was like people behind him being like, you need to do this.
No, that's why I was saying like either he believed or he was told, because that's the vibes I was getting from stuff that I was reading when I was researching this topic, is that he was just like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Like, you're in your 30s now, dude. Like, what do you, like, you don't have a son? Like, get someone who can, So.
Right.
I also believe that theory heavily.
Oh, I know that theory to be true.
Oh, okay. Well, because I kept my research, like, I just wanted to
Strictly
dive into this first one. Yeah, first one. That's the vibe I was getting from the text that I was reading when I was, like, gathering everything. But yes, we know now. Love that. If your friends jumped off a bridge, would you too? Yes. So.
He would ride off the bridge on his little horse.
On his little horsey. With his impy legs. Sorry, that comes later. Anyways. So.
That comes later. Apparently, he's supposed to be like super thin and fit until his leg. gets injured. So, like, right now he's thin and fit.
And everybody like says like he's handsome, but like what does that really mean? Because the portraits are, you know. But I believe that he could be thin and fit. But you know,
right. Something that I noticed about like portraits in that specific time period is like it would always be the profile of people, and they would always make it like straight down. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that it was kind of like Photoshop before Photoshop. Like, I don't know if that's what they really look like. Because, like, there's no way that everybody had, like,
the pictures that I saw or have, and you guys have seen of Catherine of Aragon and Henry VIII, they look like they could be related. So that's a pretty decent observation, I would say, because it's I was like, okay, she's from Spain, he's from England. There's no cross ties that I found. So how do they look like they're literally identical twins? Oh, well, they'd be fraternal twins. They look so similar in the portraits.
I'm just saying, in these royal families, there's lots of incest.
That's true too.
So
this is true too.
And maybe incest just makes people look a certain way. I don't know.
That's so wild to me too.
Yeah. That's not part of this story. Let's keep going.
So Henry VIII petitioned Pope Clement VII to annul his marriage. It was called, this whole process was called the King's Great Matter, right? Catherine obviously was like, no, you're not going to divorce me. I can give you a son. I am the rightful queen, right? Because they have the whole dowry and she's been ruling for so long. She was not about to give this up easily, right? She's resilient. She's a fighter, maintaining to her stance or belief that her marriage to Arthur was never consummated, because I think he was trying to argue that too. Like he thinks God was punishing him. And Catherine's nephew was the powerful Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. And he had pull with the Catholic Church. He had military dominance. He had diplomatic pressure and legal pull, a lot of legal pull. So the Pope was unable or completely unwilling to grant Henry his annulment, because obviously they're not going to push back against the Holy Roman Empire.
I also watched one documentary from the BBC that said that the Pope actually was captured by the Emperor Charles and was being held. Yeah, that's true. Was being held. Yeah. So we don't know exactly what happened. We don't know if the Pope picked a side or not. We just know that it didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen. I want to be in the room where it happened. Not really. Oh,
no,
God.
Not that room.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
Not that room. Yeah, me too. But she really did not want this marriage to end. Catherine was like, I don't care what you have to do. This marriage is not going to end. This annulment contestation situation lasted like a decade. She was in her 40s. It was about 1529-ish when she made a speech at Legatine Court at Blackfriars, kneeling before Henry to publicly defend the validity of their marriage. And everybody was on her side. The whole kingdom was on her side. Everyone loved her. They fought for her rights as the queen, even though Henry wanted to cast her aside in the later, 1520s. Public opinion remained completely loyal to Catherine of Aragon. Londoners openly cheered for her in the streets. They viewed her as the rightful. They said, she is the rightful priest queen, but Henry was, obviously long gone at this point because of whatever, XYZ situation, and a young lady that could give him a son, maybe. So, frustrated with the Pope, Henry took the step of breaking England away from the Roman Catholic Church, declaring himself the supreme head of the Church of England. This was called the English Reformation, or it was like the start of the English Reformation. This is where it began. So the Archbishop of Canterbury, whose name was Thomas Cranmer, who was newly appointed after the separation officially declared by Henry, he stated or declared also that Henry and Catherine's marriage was completely null and void. This was May 1533. He was 41 years old and Catherine was 47, and he remarried. And we'll get to that next week. So, after the marriage was annulled, you would think that she would be like executed because she was like wasting his time and fighting back. And, you know, kings like to have little temper tantrums and whatnot and do things that are completely unnecessary. But King Henry VIII was terrified of the Roman emperor, who was Catherine's nephew, mind you, and didn't want war and the fall of England, obviously. So instead, she was stripped of her title of queen and demoted to the Dowager Princess of Wales, and she was cruelly separated, unfortunately, from her daughter Mary, who was also, unfortunately, stripped of her title. She was named a bastard. She was only 17 years old, and she was dealing with this. It was completely heartbreaking to me, like in general, that a father could like do this. And it also furthers the theory that he had somebody whispering in his ear to do these things because it was necessary, or it was like a good way to let out his anger or frustration without causing war, is what I read too. So this guy is extremely childish and doesn't have a mind of his own. And it really ticked me off that he took his wrath out on a 17-year-old who literally was just trying to do what she's told, essentially. Surviving, trying to prepare herself for everything that she's worked towards. But yeah. Catherine was banished from the royal court. She was forbidden to talk or see her daughter. Exiled Catherine spent her final 3 years secluded in a damp, cold manor. There's one that was called Kimbolton Castle, spending her time deep in prayer. She was super devoted, or became super devoted in her faith, and she died of illness. And while ill, she wrote a final letter, because during this time she wrote like a series of letters and declarations and stuff like that. She wrote, and it has this quote, "Lastly, I vow that mine eyes desire you above all things," and signed it Catherine the Queen. And those last words were to King Henry VIII. She still was just like, "You're my husband," like till the end, even when, like after everything he did, which is so heartbreaking. But January 7th, 1536, at age of 50, Catherine passed away. And they did have an autopsy. It revealed that she had a strange black growth on her heart. And the rumors, of course, was Anne, the new wife, Anne Boleyn, she poisoned the exiled queen. But nowadays, now that we have modern medicine, science, and all that kind of stuff, they said the black growth that was on her heart is very similar to cardiovascular cancer, and that was more than likely her cause of death. King Henry VIII, he refused to attend her funeral. He denied her a queen's burial, and she was buried as Princess Dowager at Peterborough Cathedral, where her grave is still there, and you can see it. It's still honored today. It's often decorated by people and the church with fresh pomegranates, which were her personal symbol of fertility and royalty. And yeah, you can go see and honor her, which I still think is really cool that they're, protecting things like that, even though they tried to write history really dirty about her. But a couple facts. She was Europe's first female ambassador at the age of 21.
Hell
Do you
yeah.
understand the weight of that on like somebody? I still think 21, now that I'm in my 30s, I now see 21 as being just as much as a teenager. Like, I'm sorry.
No, I
It's
agree.
it's fact. So she's practically a teenager, and she's an ambassador for other countries. Like, she speaks for other crazy. She was huge on humanism and women's education. She was one of the most highly educated women of her era and used her influence to revolutionize education in England. She was praised by scholars for her intellect in so many texts. She commissioned a scholar named Juan Luis Vives to write The Education of a Christian Woman, which was a groundbreaking writing that advocated for the intellectual training of women, and she poured into her daughter's education as she was when her daughter was really young, so that her daughter could flourish pretty much like she did. And I say that because she ensured that her daughter Mary maintained a strong legal and public claim to the throne. And Mary ended up using that because she was educated and got that firsthand knowledge and skill from her mother. She used it to become Queen of England later, even though her father literally tried to take everything from her. So, flowers for
Love
her.
that.
And on top of all of that, and everything that she was doing, she still made time to visit the townspeople, the poor. She funded hospitals, and she walked among commoners all the time, talked to them, had a conversation. Like, she was just there. She was present. Where was King Henry? Oh, that girl's hot. Yeah, I should go have a son with her. Brother.
Also, probably hunting. That man
Brother.
loved to hunt.
He did love to hunt. He did love to hunt.
Did you know? Did I tell you about how he used to like? I think we have talked about this on this podcast, but he used to have these day-long festivals of like a ton of rich people would come and they would just go hunting on the same grounds. It would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was crazy.
Yep. And while that was happening, the queen was with her people.
Mm-hmm.
So, that, my friends, is a real woman.
Mm-hmm.
That, my friends, is a fighter. That, my friends, is a role model, an idol, all of the above. Strong-willed, sharp-tongued, who actually cared about people. Like, she handled everything on her own because she knew that she could do it. And she did it with grace.
Hell yeah, she did.
I mean, of course, she had to call on her nephew a little bit, but I mean, like, who wouldn't?
I mean, I don't even know if she had to call on him because, like, if the marriage were to dissolve, they're losing allies. They're losing an alliance. So it's bad for everybody.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that he didn't care. King Henry VIII. He didn't care.
Well, no, I know he didn't. I'm talking about
Oh.
Charles.
I
Yeah,
think
it was bad
Charles
for-
honestly wanted to destroy England. Let's be so for real. And he could
No.
have.
Everybody wanted, like, everybody that wasn't England wanted the throne in England. Everybody was fighting over it. Every country.
No, that's what I mean. Like, he, like, get rid of him. Like, yeah, that's pretty much what I mean. Like, I think that's why over time, Henry VIII came to his senses and was just like, yeah, I can't do anything physically to this woman because she's done ticked me off because I'm dead. I think that's more so like what I mean. And he knew that Charles would come for him, for sure, if he did anything
and
to
who
Catherine.
knows, maybe there was a bit of affection for Catherine because they spent so much time together. Like,
Children.
it would. What?
They were children.
Yeah, they'd known each other since they were children, and I think that when you spend that much time with somebody, and he clearly trusted her to run parts of his government, and like, I think that it was more likely that there were people in his ear telling him she's got to go and manipulating him into believing it. Is he a saint in this? Absolutely not. I think he's a piece of garbage. But I also don't think he did that alone. I think that there were people behind the scenes pulling strings.
I agree. I agree completely. And also, you know, he did fight in the wars too. So that also is why, like, he's known Catherine for so long. She was very devoted to England. So devoted. He was like, she's not going to do anything. And he granted her, you know, that authority on good measure
Right.
because that woman was smart. Okay. Like,
Yeah, she was.
holy smokes. Could this girl strategize better than any male who was actively fighting in war for decades? And she could out strategize them.
Good. I hope that they were emasculated.
I mean, everybody loved her, so I honestly think they didn't really care. The only person that didn't was Henry VIII and other ego-sensitive people in the courts. So,
I can't wait to tell you my story next week. You're going to have a whole different view on this situation.
really?
Mm-hmm.
I want to know how they met. I want to know how she became a courtier.
It is the juiciest piece of history tea I've ever heard in my life.
Tea.
Like, I felt like I was watching Gossip Girl. That was crazy.
Really?
Yeah. It was
Oh,
crazy.
you guys are in for it. But I hope that you enjoyed the beginning of this series, learning about Catherine of Aragon, Catalina. And of course, please do your own research because there is so much I could touch on that I told Jamie before we actually started, you know, recording. There's so many details that are documented about her life and what she did. I gave you guys the names and the dates. Please dive into it because it is so good. It's so good. Like, he's so dumb to get rid of this woman. So dumb. Whether they had an heir or not, dude. So dumb to get rid of this woman. I digress. So, please do your own research. You guys are going to continue to have your mind blown. Hopefully, I've taught you guys a new thing or two. And where's your water? Water always slaps after I run my mouth for like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But other than that, my friends, what are you going to do nice for yourselves this week? What about you, Jamie?
What am I going to do nice for myself? Well, I haven't thought that far ahead, and I think that that is what I'm going to do nice for myself.
Spend some
Is
time thinking about it.
No, I'm not going to think about it, and that's the nice thing. I'm going to just let things happen. Also, one of my friends got a new job, and we're celebrating him and going to Korean barbecue. So that'll be nice. But I'm just not going to make plans this week. I'm just going to live in the moment.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. I have also not figured out what I'm going to do nice for myself this week because the weather's going to be gross. And my favorite thing to do nice for myself is to be outside and exist. And I can't do that. So we will figure it out. Oh, I started reading again. I'll spend some time finishing that up. So
Nice.
we'll do that. That's the goal. But I hope you guys find a moment to smile, find a moment to breathe, find a moment to decompress. Do whatever it is that you feel like you need to do for yourself to be able to show up for yourself and others. And yeah.
And if you don't have the capacity to show up for others, show up for yourself. Because
More than
if
anything.
you don't fill your cup, then you can't fill others.
Nope. You can maybe fill one 3/4 of the way, and then the next one a drip. So, yeah, definitely take care of yourself first. And other than that, we'll see you guys next week for Queen number 2.
Anne Boleyn.
Anne Boleyn. Goodbye.
Very church. Let's see if I got it. Church. Goodbye. I think that's what you did.
That was.
It went one ear and out the other, so I don't remember.
It's fine. Okay, we'll see you guys next week.